Test, test. Test, test. Test, 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 test. Assalamu alaikum. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. I greet with the universal greeting of peace. May Allah's peace and blessings be upon you all. Thank you, everyone who came out today, and everyone particularly who's attending online and watching this in the comfort of their homes. We greet you, and we are very pleased with your attendance. We want to welcome you to today's public address, which is titled Rise with the Prophet, Lessons in Prophethood from the Al-Isra and Al-Miraj, which is Rise with the Prophet, Lessons in Prophethood from the Ninth Journey and the Ascension into Paradise. These are two important events in Islam that we often may not fully understand. And I wanted us to take time to really settle into understanding these, to really get into the details of the different prophets that Prophet Muhammad ﷺ met. So far, the goals of this program are as follows. Let me share some of the goals real quick. The goals of this event are, number one, to remind us of these two momentous events in the history of Islam, as well as the details around them. A lot of people have been Muslim and they don't know that Prophet Muhammad ascended into paradise, or that Prophet Muhammad ﷺ led the different prophets in prayer at Mount in Jerusalem. We call it Assalamu alaikum. Mount Al-Aqsa, Al-Aqsa Masjid. The second important goal is to extract the lessons from these events, the lessons that make them more than just stories. So we want to begin to understand the religion on a deeper level, not just having stories and fables in our minds, myths as such, but rather extracting the wisdom, the intelligence, the rational sound logic from these stories that we are told and that we talk about in the Quran. So the first thing is to remind us, the next is to extract lessons, and the third thing is to really drill down, take time and drill down into the details that relate about the connection between Prophet Muhammad ﷺ and the missions of other prophets. So that's what this serves to do, and so far I think we've been doing a very good job of it. So alhamdulillah, so far what we have covered is the journey to the farthest mosque. We talked about the Prophet ﷺ in the beginning of his life, how he lived in Mecca, when he started his ministry. We talked about it when he was born and the struggles that he had growing up, and how after he received the message, he spent 10 years preaching in Mecca, and he was consistently challenged. And up until the point of the last 2 years, which we know those to be the years of sorrow, okay? And so after the last 2 years of sorrow, the prophet was kind of at his lowest point. And it was this point where he just almost was gonna break. Like you would, if you were him, you would be wondering what's gonna happen. He had been rejected by his people. He had been rejected and stoned by the children of Ta'if. His wife had died as a result of this. His daughter had died as a result of this. Imagine that you brought a mission, you brought a religion, and as a result of your preaching, your family members have died. So you can only imagine the kind of stress that he went in. And almost as a response or an answer to this situation, the events of the Al-Isra, the night journey to the farthest mosque, which we discussed, happened. And shortly after the night journey came the ascension into paradise. We've talked about this. And on the ascension to paradise, the first level, the prophet met who? Yes.
He met Adam.
Allahu Akbar. The prophet met Adam.
Right.
The first level, the Prophet ﷺ met, alhamdulillah. And we'll maybe towards the end we'll get into the extracting some of the lessons. I don't want to take from the brother's time. We'll get out of here and hand this mic to this brother. But I want to bring us up to speed, bring us up to where we are, right? So the first level, the Prophet met Adam, and we'll talk about the lessons that we extracted from that. The second level, the Prophet met who? Isa alayhi salam, and his cousin John the Baptist, alhamdulillah. Good. And then he ascended to the third level. And on the third level, the Prophet alayhi salam met Yusuf alayhi salam, alhamdulillah. And that's where we're at today, brothers and sisters. And so with that, I have a brother who responded to the call to come out and assist us in this in rising with the Prophet and extracting these lessons of prophecy from this particular story. This brother that I invited today, we're all familiar with him, but I want you all to know that this brother brings a different perspective. He's very involved in the business community here up in Houston. He's a worker. He applies the lessons of the religion. He doesn't just look at them as stories, and he is a student of Imam David B. Muhammad. May Allah reward him for his deeds, forgive him his sins. So with that said, we have Brother Yusuf Vincent. He's one of the assistant imams at the Fifth Ward Islamic Center, our sister masjid. We welcome him, we appreciate him, and we thank Allah that he has sent this brother to assist us today. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum. I thank y'all for having me once again. I told y'all last time wasn't gonna be the last time. Try to make this a regular thing. Brother Imam Amir has been a tireless warrior, a tireless worker. Not only in his own endeavors and in endeavors for the masjid, but also in partnering with us in our many endeavors that we do. In any opportunity we can assist each other. We should always do that. We're commanded to do that, right? But when a person embodies that, it makes you even more eager to make sure that you reciprocate and make sure you answer the call, right? Right. To those brothers in arms. Let's start off with Dua, and I'm thankful that the brother has already given kind of the intro to where we are, and I'll kind of start from there. The beauty of the language that we have, right? That was passed down. The beauty of the custom, the beauty of the religion. When you have a topic and a beautiful title, I don't know who cooperated with creating that title when he said "Rise with the Prophet." We have a deep and rich history with being downtrodden. Our people going through our own sorrows, right? And I've said it before. I hate to seem special. I don't want to seem special, but because of that, like Allah talks about, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about the light and the dark, and if it wasn't for the dark, you wouldn't know the value of that light. He said when the thunder strikes right in that darkness, you move therein a little bit and then you stop, right? Because you can see and you know the value of it. And I've said before, and I guess I will always say that because of what we went through, we understand more than anybody else the value of being handed a playbook for success. Not only for you, for your family, for your children, for a stranger, for anyone that you would meet, for the downtrodden, that you don't have it to save them. Like I know I don't have enough on me, even if I were to donate, right? All I have, I know I don't have enough on me, your condition, to be able to bring you out of your condition. But the thing about understanding the value of a thing, I know that someone was handed one of these. Someone was handed the Quran, right? And because of that, because of what was relayed, that covered. That could cover it, right? I couldn't. I know I couldn't. I know my limits. I know my human limit. I know if I give my earnest effort as I'm guided to, that I can still come up extremely short. Extremely short. Because Allah saves. Allah raises, right? In this vein, these stories parallel. That's the reason why I say the title, Rise with the Prophet, is so great a topic, great a title. Is because the Prophet's years of sorrow and his ultimate victory, his divine destiny, parallels with the other prophet stories, parallels with Yusuf's story, parallels with our story. So it isn't some far off thing that we can't get nothing from. You know, you try to tell somebody something and they're like, what am I gonna do with that? You know, this we dealing with now. In relaying Yusuf's story, the Quran says in Surah 12, ayat 3. We relate to you the best story in what we have revealed to you of this Quran, although you were before it among the unaware. You know, everybody talks about wokeness nowadays, right? And you have to define wokeness, right? Define being woke. And it says being woke is to be aware. Because this awareness, right? This gives you clarity, this gives you sight, this gives you knowledge about something so that you could be able to act on it, so that you could be able to do something about it. So it's saying it's giving you the best story. It's saying this is giving you a story where this prophet is going through something that it's kind of like saying of all the medicine I could give you, you know. And we should understand some of this. Some of our I think when I was reading Nelson Mandela's story, Long Walk to Freedom, right? He talked about his family being part of the the griots or the people that kept the histories. And he told the actual kings the stories. And he told them stories so they would know what to do, so that they would have character, so that they would be able to glean lessons from the stories. And the Quran is telling us right now that this is the best story, because before him, you were unaware. What was I unaware of? Right? when it talks about the prophet going through the years of sorrow and getting this vision, I don't know if anybody else, y'all might just call this right up, but I want to see it for me, right? I don't know if anybody else had went through something, right? Had went through something, and some kind of way Allah gave you not only comfort, but He gave you kind of like the, this is gonna be the key. You going through something, you don't know how, and the keys fall out, right? You're in the midst of whatever it is. You don't know, it's beyond you. And Allah said, here, I don't know if anybody else had that. If you have, just hold it, right? But there were even times before I had to do something, and I thought it extremely difficult, before I did it. And then by the time I got to do it, it had been, the size of it had been reduced. Oh, the deep mercy. Remember times I have dreamed, a few nights before, have something come to my mind. And I was like, that's the perfect thing that I needed. Now I can proceed. So you can imagine the prophet at this time going through, when they say years of sorrow, we don't even want to hang outside too long. I know the brother spoke on like Mecca at that time, right? And you have to put it in perspective of then, because when somebody's telling you, I'm telling you the best of stories so that you could be aware, they want you to tell the story and know the story exactly how the time was, so you know the severity of the story, so that nothing or any inkling of it is lost to you. Your parents ain't telling you they walked to school and you got it made for nothing. They're trying to impress upon you, you have it easier than me. They trying to make sure that you get the gems that they trying to give you to protect you. You don't have it like we had. I remember my coworker saying, all that AC and radio, all we had is 4 on the floor. On an old car, what he had to do driving, right? AC. Our AC go out, we can't even drive that thing. like we gotta do something. I need a rental car or something. There's a high five. We sweat. We hanging out there. We about to die. That's when we start praying. That's when we in sorrow, and it's not even close. But when they're telling this story, just imagine before you even get to the ascension, what they say, you are here. Right. You are here. Before you get to ascension, you have a journey. Why didn't they just talk about the ascension? Why didn't they just say he ascended? Why didn't they look? He had a dream, start going up. Things were down, he started going up. Why was there a journey? Right? Allah tells us, He gives us our own story, our own goals, even though He gives us mutual goals where we work together on things, and we're supposed to vie for and help one another in those objectives. Forgive and overlook, protect. We have every facet that we're supposed to do for one another to make sure that we're successful, right? And at the same time, we have our individual goals that He sends us to. Nobody can stop you from going through what you're finna go. The reason why this is the most beautiful story is because it's telling you that even my favorite prophet went through it. Who do you think you are that you won't? Are you reading the instruction to understand that it is to prove what is in your chest? Man, like, really show you. I mean, others don't see too, right? I remember one time I was going through something, my coworker just kind of snapped. He was like, "You're doing pretty good to be going through something," you know. He don't believe, like, you got a lot going on. You know, if people know your story or they know what's happening, you know, they know what you're in the middle of. A lot of times, you know, if they hadn't been through it or thinking about how big it is, they like, what you doing walking around like every day, like everything all good. So I'm gonna give one key, right? That's why the elder said and everything. This is the major key. It's that this story, and the reason why it's the most beautiful story, is because it's giving the believer court vision. It's talking to the prophet at the time. It's like, before you were unaware, of this story, these stories are part of the success. Remember what I said earlier. If I see somebody needing some help, I don't know that I have enough on me to make them successful. I don't know if I have enough in me to get. Sometimes it's mental health. Sometimes it like we problems are large. Like these are for Allah, right? But this is part of this ultimate success, this follow, right? And if you get it, even if your worst time, even though you're not at your success yet, you can stand back from it in the midst of it. If you're going through a Ayub, a Job, if you're going through, right, what Yusuf went through, if you're going through what any of the prophets when they were going through famines, if you're going through any of that, you can be able to read from this success book and back up from that balcony and see, be successful. It's already like I have divine favor on me. If not, I would not have been led to Islam. I would not have been led to the success book, the guidelines, the rules, the prophet. I would not be led to the most beautiful story. I wouldn't be given these keys to make sure, to ensure. Anybody else? Examples, right? You need stories, you need examples. There's somebody today, maybe many people that are unaware. So they're thinking about suicide in their years of sorrow, in their moment of sorrow. They're losing something that they think is too much. That they think, I can't go on from here. What would life look like? Right? And yet you have been given a story that gives you, and you always like, when I talk to like the youth, they're like, man, I want to tell them that it's gonna be okay. You know, don't spiral, don't crash out because you lost this. It's okay. That's like you got a lot ahead of you. You know, if that one was bad, don't worry. Now you learn the criteria, you're gonna make a better choice. Right? And you want to tell them that this is what this does. So you could imagine the prophet, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, going through his years of sojourn, And Allah, subhanahu wa ta'ala, sends him on this journey. It was going to take more than the journey, right? And some of the story and some of the journey and the ascension, it was for others. We knew that, we know now, like rear view mirror, y'all smart as can be now. Some of them fell off soon as they heard, are you going back over there to the old place? And, soon as they heard, you doing something that we wouldn't consider bright, you going back to that person or something like that, right? And yet we understand something that they don't understand. We understand ourselves and our journey. We understand that when we learn and we improve ourselves, what was made better in that, right? I didn't want to, because it's a lot. It might seem like not even supposed to be a lot. You say you just got the Yusuf part of it. All you gotta do is say, he met Yusuf. He was the most beautiful. So, right. But that wouldn't give you why, right? That wouldn't give you the beauty of the story. That wouldn't give you why did he meet Yusuf, right? There are many people that said, "Oh man, y'all got that from the Jews or the Christians. Y'all just copy." When I say y'all plagiarize, right? I'm talking to one kid. I say, well, then the Jews say y'all plagiarize. I say, and then I had to tell him. I said, do you believe it? Like, first, do you know how many prophets? Because this one of the new guys, one of the YouTube crew. You got to have some fight in you. I say, you know how many prophets there were in your Bible? It was a lot. Yeah. So it's about 100 and something. I don't want to accept the next one, but it's about 100 and something, 130. I said, that's like 48 major ones and like 7 prophetesses. I said, what's your criteria on accepting or rejecting? Because we know what we learned. We didn't, we just kind of got it. I was just having like, regular talk with him. But he was like, he had to call me back. He said, wow, the way you walked me over there. Because people that seek knowledge love knowledge. They don't want to fight. They want to rise. Like, give me. If I'm missing something, what you got? So on this journey, and when we talk about why you met Yusuf, regress. And that's the reason why we kind of need so much time, because I was talking to somebody that should have known Yusuf's story. And so if you just try to relate the message and they don't even know the story, or some of us are raised Christian, but even then don't know the story. I'm always in effect. I'm always rapping to everybody. I'm rapping people, they on the way yet, because I'm around doing so much stuff. I be doing legal work for somebody. I don't know how I get on with it. Right. But I'm telling the story and they like, you got some details. They really saying, why you care so much about this? You know. Like, you need to know, like, you gotta know the whole story. The story matters.
Yeah.
And I said, if you parallel the story, but before you parallel, you need to know the story. You need to know Joseph's story. Imagine his father telling him when he told his father a dream. You know, if you ever had a dream, or even if you just have a goal, you know how excited you are. As we read, his heart leapt, right? Your heart will leap right out your chest. You wake up, Allah gave you something, and you just excited. You like, what's wrong with you? Just trying to get it all down. Like you're excited because you're like, this is a new thing. I can do this time, figure this out, right? And this will be great. So you could imagine him getting that dream, that vision, and he's trying to relay it to his father, and his father like, oh, don't tell your brothers. Some of us ain't got that bone in us. You know, some of us can't even share with others because they ain't got that bone in them. Keep whole, secure some, like a relay race. Soon as they get the information, you know, it's gonna broadcast. It's gonna go. Well, don't even tell me then. You know, you're supposed to know. Don't even tell me. You know what I'm gonna do. And if you want everybody to know, tell me. I got you. You know, we need to remember that when we promote stuff. You know, tell the brother. Yeah. No. He's like, don't tell your brother. And again, this is the father telling his son. This father knows something, right? And he's trying to impress upon him the importance of not doing that. And you know, I remember you covered Adam, right? And you remember you had Cain and Abel, Kabbal and Howell, right? And the jealousy.
We didn't talk about that, but yeah.
You're in good faith. See, it's
Go ahead.
and you talk about brothers. So jealousy didn't. It wasn't like the first time you're gonna hear about jealousy was at Yusuf. No.
Mm-hmm.
Number one, it's Adam. And you hear about what jealousy drives in the worst of them, right? Just like I was saying about the sorrow. If we don't know, if we don't have our feelings, it's gonna get better. It's gonna not only get better, this is gonna be the thing that propels you to higher heights. But we don't know that in the sorrow. All we know is the sorrow. If Allah had not made us aware, if Allah had not given us a book and given us each other as a community, astaghfirullah. Pick your head up. What's wrong? What's going on? Don't you know? Don't you know what Allah got this? So we learn about that betrayal early on. Just imagine that being in your family history and you tell your son, don't tell your brother. It's in your family history, you know. And the stories you relate to one another, you know. You're not confused about it, you know. And then even though you tell them, but they didn't understand and reflect, they were too excited to tell children every day. Don't do that. You know, half the time we know they finna touch it. Right? Don't touch, don't touch it. Half the time we know. We should learn from the Quran and really just tell a whole story. Let me sit you down for a whole story. Then they'd be like, man, here we go. Right? Half the time they just want to feel, you know, just see. Half the time they're too excited and experiencing something new, and they're like, man, I want them to be proud too. I want them to like this too, right? And he experiences the worst of the worst. He experiences betrayal by his own family, by his own brother. Right? You had people try to convince us, hey, y'all sold each other. Try to act like our story was just one story. Got a myriad of stories. Got people that already was here, people, people that got dropped off, people that got shanghai, people, there's a myriad of stories. You got prisoners of war, empires clashing. You didn't get nothing. They gave you a summary because they need you to think a thing about yourself, right? But there's still betrayal in the story. And so we see that. Now, if you go on to like online, travel portals, you have some people that, because of the betrayal story they've been told, they're like, man, I don't like nothing African. That African stuff. We don't know nothing about it. We ain't never been there. Y'all ain't never been there. How y'all doing all that? If it was, it just did the thing, right? And then we see Yusuf's story. And we see the reconciliation. We see him understanding that his purpose is with Allah. And he's not to lose character. He's not to lose faith. He's not to lose who he is. At any given time, what Allah tells us to not cut off our ties of kinship, it's easy until they betray you. I advise somebody who was betrayed, right? In one of the worst, most heinous ways, right? And it's a lot just to be trusted to even move that needle. Normally it wouldn't move. I trust you so much. If you say I'm supposed to keep not sever that. Like, I trust you. I'm gonna figure something out. I tell them I ain't say you have to be all lovey-dovey, all wonderful, but you have to maintain it because boss said maintain it. And there's something to it because Allah tells us about it, the supreme success, not the success that we want. So this gives us that. This gives us what to do. This gives us why. And without that, we wouldn't be able to reach it. In our wisdom, in our understanding, we would sever ties. We would become about as mean as the betrayers, right? If somebody falsely accused us, we've been through the mass incarceration. We know what it's like. Falsely accused Emmett Till, put to death. We know all of these years of sorrow, right? So this gives us so much. So when we read these stories and when we read about it, and especially, we are tasked with giving dawah. And Allah says, it's for us to collect it and recite it. But he says, name more. When the recital is done, explain it. Make it clear. And you're making it clear. He says, the prophet is a light for you, that you may be a light to mankind. So that's part of our job, to make sure that we make it clear that this isn't just a journey. This isn't just a journey just to meet the prophets. The prophets have significance, and their stories have significance, and things that we can glean for our success today. So when we understand that and we know, now we know the reason, the rationale behind it, and we can truly glean what we're supposed to get from. And so when we read the other ayahs telling us what to do, we're not bucking. I know it say do that, but I don't want to do it. We're not bucking because we know the greater story, and we read the most beautiful story so that we can maintain our beauty. Answer that. See, I still got a minute left. And that's more, and I can probably, expand. I don't know if we want to do another time because this ain't even going into like the story. Stories like, the details of the betrayal. There's so much throughout the Quran on it. But if anybody has any questions, comments, because I went through a lot of, I actually went through a lot of ayahs, but I didn't go down through. I read just the one. That was one thing that I did want to cover.
Yeah, but you still got
At 30?
it's 12:30.
Oh, I thought
I
you
like
were gonna
that.
stop for that prayer. Okay. So let me.
When we make prayer after.
Okay. So two things. So along with that, so we miss out, right? I tell people when you're presented with du'as in the Quran, there's a reason for all those du'as. Some of them say kalu. It's actually telling you to say it. Kalu, kala, rabbi, kum, right? It's so Yusuf had two prayers that kind of embodied the moment, or that was a part of it. One is in Surah 12, ayah 33. Other is, I know that man told y'all bring pen and paper, so I know y'all ready. And Surah 12, ayah 101.
The first one, which one was it?
12:33. And in that he said, it said, "My Lord, prison is dearer to me than that which they invite me. And if you do not turn away their plot from me, I might incline towards them and become of ignorance." This dua is Yusuf, praying for protection, even if it looks like jail. Even if that, that's where I gotta go, right? Because I don't want to be pressured into and we hear stories right now today about rich people pressuring poor people, young people, right? We got a lot going on right now. But we know what influence do. And so you think about not only the royal family, but their officials, the important people that are so rich that they could buy you. And what influence would a person have if they could purchase you going forward? I mean, do we know anything about that? Do we know anything about any harm that somebody could cause that they purchased you or your family or kin, and evils that they would do? So he's making a dua and he's praying for Allah's protection. No matter what that looks like. Let me go over there. When I was younger, I read that. I'm like, that don't make no sense. Don't put me in jail. I run away or something. I fix something. I fix something out, right? But now that I'm older and I've read so many histories and I know about the slave catchers, and I know about how if you're in a society, it's not just that person that you run away from. You run away from the whole society. That's the reason why I say you have to put yourself in a position in the story so you understand the story. You don't divorce yourself from it and think, oh, he could have. He could have. right? And then the other thing is, this is a duel. This is a duel for today. If you see yourself in a certain position, this is that duel. The other one is part of what I was talking about the success, but what do we really want as far as success, right? And what did he want? Why was he called the most beautiful? And I think somebody covered or somebody talked about him being called the most beautiful, but at that time you in the heavens. You're not down here in corporal earth where you have your body and now they can look at how beautiful you were, right? This is character, right? This is who you are. This is the beauty on display of who you are, right? The content of character. It says, "My Lord, you have given me something of sovereignty."
What verse is it?
This is 12:101. It says, "My Lord, you have given me something of sovereignty." Y'all there?
Yeah.
And taught me the interpretation of dreams.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Give me position, give me a gift that has made room for me. Right? That's what they say. Right? Since creator of the heavens and the earth, you are my protector in this world and the hereafter. Cause me to die a Muslim and join me with the righteous. We know this door. We know that we think we rocking with this one, right? We might not like that other, right? But that's the reason why the whole story is needed. That's the reason why the clarity is needed, because your prayer might have to sound like that. Not only your prayer might have to sound like that, you may have to make peace with your mind that a hardship is better.
No, I wish my mother was here to testify to that. My mother prayed for me. She said, "Look, lock this boy up, rather than me have to go bury this boy." True story. I wish my mother was here to tell you. I mean, back in my day, she said, "God, lock this boy up so I don't have to go bury this boy." And the wisdom in that was she had said she exhausted all of her resources and everything she could do for me, right? And we talk about this even now to this day when we just had a conversation. She said, prison was the best thing for you. She said it was the best thing for you. And Allah is my witness, it was. It was the best thing for me in that situation that I was in. And it gave me an opportunity to see the better picture of myself that my mother could see. Because no parent wants their child to be locked up. I mean, but when you exhaust all measures, when you exhaust all physical measures and resources that you can do, he's like, look, the only other result I have, Imam Muhammad said, when your knowledge runs out, your faith comes in, right? Yeah. She's like, nah. She said, I prayed for you to get locked up because I knew that was the only alternative to you actually having a life. And yeah, so sometimes that prayer is difficult for us. But yeah, my mother, she was very openly sharing that with me, and I was mature enough to understand where she was coming from.
That's so significant because you guys remember? That's so significant because I do a lot of legal work. To help families kind of ease the burden of what they're going through if they have to sit down. We don't want to lose them forever. They might need to sit down, but we don't want to have to lose them forever. So I want to make sure it's fair. I want to make sure, hey, look, you know, he's like he needs to pay his debt. He need to get a chance to come back home, you know, and you know that supposed rehabilitation be that, right? Um, so I hear that I have a parent now. They're actually lackadaisical about getting help because they like I want you, but they like right now he ain't even seen it. So what could we do, right? Um, yeah, ain't nothing anymore. But go ahead.
Brother, for some
Thank you.
of our newer members that may not be familiar with the story, could you give a small synopsis of the story? Some of the participants may not. I know my wife doesn't know the story. Like maybe the 10-minute version, the 15. Just a synopsis. You don't have to get all detailed.
And see, I had to.
Who Joseph was, kind of what happened to him, like how he got thrown down the well,
And I had to change it up too.
But just give it in a story version.
Because I know, but I wanted to. There's.
You don't have to get a whole story.
That's a story, but I want to try to go down the IAS because I mean you can just read through.
So basically,
sure,
Joseph, he was the son of Jacob, and Jacob was his father.
So I was named Yusuf.
There we go.
Right. So that's another reason why I was like, y'all can do what part? Like they was on there. I don't know if we were serving the food or where we at. We had Malati. And like we're gonna cover Yusuf. Now here is my name, so but the topic.
Yeah.
I kind of when it's your name, you kind of favor that story, so you always read about that story. So you probably know that story.
You chased me down.
You gotta. And because it was a difficult name here, I had to go through everything because of the name. I ain't had no John name, Brian, none of that. I had Yusuf in elementary. You know what I'm saying? So it was on and popping, but I had to, I would read and learn it early. But my mom was Baptist, my dad was Muslim, right? At that time, by the time I come of age, right, they made us split and went higher, right? So I'm seeking knowledge in both, and I have to because one for acting like church, one, one. So through and through, I'm learning this story. Through and through. And the first thing I learned is his name and his meaning. And it doesn't matter if it's the Arabic or the biblical Hebrew. It means he shall add. It doesn't mean Joseph shall add or Yusuf should add. It means God shall add. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shall add. And just like with his story, when he says, you made me to have this gift. The gift that he gave him, no matter what he went through, put him in Africa, saving the world at that time. The perspective, right? You have to get the perspective. You have a whole dynasty of kings. This is probably the king after the first 100 African kings, on that throne before the next 100. And, and this king is seeing a vision and he's like, I need to figure out this vision. But that isn't where the story starts. The story starts, going back to what I said, the dad, my dad, when he came to Islam, I think through the nation, and his attribute was Yaqub. So, and it's funny because the nation had another kind of like historical perspective when it came to Yaqub.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Some of those people know he was the big head scientist. There was some evil things that were going on. It was some this was diabolical, right? At that point, it wasn't a regular thing, right? But this is so Yaqub is the Jacob, right, in the story, and then he has the sons, and then he has Joseph. Um, and just like I told with the dream that he dreamed that he saw the stars, and they bowed before him. And his dad tells him, "Hey, don't don't relay that to your brothers. Don't tell your brothers." The ayat reads, "Oh my son, oh my son, do not relate your vision to your brothers, or they will contrive against you a plan." You know, that's more than just plotting. It's like golly. He said, "Indeed, Satan is a clear enemy to man." So he adds a layer. He's like, it's not even your brothers. It's that when they hear Shaitan is right there. You heard what he just said? This helps, and it should help with the understanding of why, when he reconciles the family, he has a wisdom and a faith and an understanding that it's not them. And this verse is kind of laying that out. His father is giving him guidance, and at the same time saying, indeed, Shaitan is a clear enemy to man. You start talking about your big dreams, big visions, and what you're going to do. And if they sound too lofty, even the most earnest of brother, you just need to work on some small stuff, brother. You need, every time you had $1 billion every time. And we trying to, and we want the best for our brother, but we can't fail. Now, one interview I was young, and I remembered it because it was on Jay-Z, and he was talking about his father, and he told his father who he was gonna be, and you gotta understand. Jay-Z said one time from the project they went on a field trip to a house with a refrigerator with ice maker. This is one thing. They from the projects, New York City. The New York City projects is big as like skyscrapers, in the rows, deep. And they go on a field trip to a house. I didn't say a famous house. I didn't say a historic building. I didn't say a landmark. I didn't say nothing else. A house. A property. The teacher recognizing y'all ain't seen nothing but apartment companies. Y'all ain't seen nothing but these rows of stacked on, everybody stacked on top of each other. Everybody in the same plight. If you have any free thoughts or we're gonna break them. We're gonna break them. Any big dreams, all that, we're gonna break them right. And he said his dad couldn't see it. So if he didn't see it himself, and he said that same teacher that took him to the house is the one that told him, hey, man, you good at the words, good with your words. You need to do something with them. Just imagine what that little, that little pouring in did. Like him or not, love him or hate him, he made his way out of where he was at. And he probably got one of the biggest homes in the world right now. He got homes on each coast. you know. So you could imagine him telling that story. I think it was so part of it. It's like a Forbes magazine right there beside Warren Buffett and all that. But sometimes because they can't see it, they'll tell you, man, you need to stop all that. Go get you a job, get you a good education. The CEO of Dell, his family didn't mean to be messed up, but they had doctors and lawyers in their family. You finna be one of them. They was serious with it. He was selling. He was upgrading and selling and reselling computers And he like, oh yeah, that's a nice hobby, but yeah, when you going to college, when you're old, and he know they not playing, like you gonna do this. So he said he packed the three he had just upgraded in the car in the back of the car and he headed off to college, knowing that when he get there he's at a computer. And he became the youngest Fortune 500 company owner in the United States. $1 billion company, Dell Inc. Dell Computers. But he kind of knew, right? But when we tell people, they kind of always hear from their perspective, from their view, or however it is. He's warning his son, don't tell your brother. Satan is a violent enemy. He gonna get to whispering fast. This fool crazy. I think you mean y'all gonna buy him. Y'all. He think he's special. So the brothers are jealous and they plot. He says that we're gonna either kill Yusuf or cast him to another land. So the favor of your father will be only for you. One advised, don't kill him. We're just gonna throw him down, bottom of the well. One couldn't bring himself. That sounds too stiff, right? He said we just throw him in the well. Some travelers will pick him up.
What was the problem?
What was the?
Why were they doing that?
Jealousy. And that's it. If you ever went through betrayal, family betrayal, any of that, you'll spend the best half of your life trying to figure out why.
There's a little bit of story that
Yeah,
relates to it. Right, brother, with the coat. Remember the coat?
Yeah, the multicolored coat. Yeah, Joseph with the multicolored. Yeah.
That goes a little deeper. But
Yeah,
there was a situation that kind of created the jealousy.
Yeah. He kind of the dad made a coat for him that
Right.
he didn't make for the other brothers. They felt like that was, but again, that Shaitan whispering, see, you favored, your brothers. It says, and I'm kind of going through it, and I want to, I'm telling the story, but I want to go from the ayah because there's shifts between the biblical narrative and the narrative here. And like the biblical narrative, they drop in the well, pull him out the well, and sell him, and then he gets sold again. In the Quranic narrative, they drop him in the well, the people find him, and then they sell him. So kind of make sure there's a parallel. It's not much of a, not a huge parallel, but it helps. Like y'all went back home, y'all cold. That's a whole nother level of coldness. And it says he was sold for a small price to an Egyptian man, Al-Aziz. And Al-Aziz said to his wife, he said, make his stay honorable. Perhaps he will benefit us, or we will adopt him as a son. Right? So the initial intention was, it was earnest. It would have been a good situation. It says in Surah 12:21, it says Allah states He established Yusuf in the land and taught him the interpretation of dreams. Now you have the temptation. Next period is the temptation and imprisonment. In Surah 12, ayah 23, it talks about the wife of Al-Aziz attempting to seduce him. Right? Yusuf says again, this is a duel. He said, I seek refuge in Allah. Indeed, He is my master who has made me stay good. Indeed, wrongdoers will not succeed. This is a duel, right? It says they raced to the door. The husband saw, but the evidence proved Yusuf innocent. One thing about status is even if you're innocent, we need to save face. We're a prominent family. It can't be heard. My wife around here.
What was the evidence that proved him innocent? Yusuf in this story.
That torture?
From the back.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. It was like
He
had
had a
it
smile, right?
it was like had it been from the front.
Exactly.
You know, and it's another significant thing when you get to it. But it was the other thing I had to back up and see because I had to restudy. I had to not only restudy the Bible, I had to restudy like the Quran and kind of we diminish ourselves so much. You know, somebody said, "Man, y'all the curse Goyim or something. Y'all these people or the Canaanites, or some other people." I said, "Man, every African culture ever had a name in the Bible and Quran. You don't have to worry about being some strange people. You were never a strange people. You were from the land of the literary and the super rich, and all of them had names. You go through it and you look up the original, like man, everything else, like man, you were a Cushite, or you're a Libyan, or you're Egyptian. Like, every one of them had their names among us. And we've been told something else. We've been told ain't no telling who in the story. We're gonna make you somebody in the story because this sounds good, right? Knowing who you are matters. But it says, and this is the thing that I was going out with. They had a trial. You don't even see this anywhere else in anything else but there. So when we talk about a civil society, we telling one person's story, but we need to see all of ourselves in the story. Anywhere else, maybe out in the Badlands, out in Canaan, we just gonna chop some hands out. We just gonna go to war with you. You did us wrong. You gonna chase them down. Something's gonna happen. You go over there, they got trial. They got a whole trial. Courts, law, jails. These are, and you start to understand that these are mercies because it could have been worse. I remember one of the first law books I got, like Ethiopia, or it was one of the other ones, but it had some of the old laws in it. Like you steal something, some countries steal something, chop off your hand. So sometimes it's mercy. You don't want no firing squad. They still had that law in Texas where you steal a horse, they'll hang you. It was still on the book. They were like, man, we gotta get that off of Yeah. I'm not full tilt for a horse. And he didn't even kill the horse. He stole it. He can return it. You know what I'm saying? Like, what are we doing around here? What's the value of a human, right? So he has trial. He gets proved innocent at trial, but along with what he prays, he said, "I'd rather go to prison. I don't want to go back into a situation, even though they say it's all right. No, because something's gonna happen to me just for this stuff getting out. Just for what I'm saying, just for how it looks, just for how it colors the family or whatever. Like I'm seeking refuge from. I don't know what that's gonna look like. It already wasn't good over there. Not trying to go back over there. I'd rather let me make my way another way. Let me see what this other path do. At least I be cut off to myself. I can just pray to the Lord, figure it out from there. So he asks us for that. When he goes to jail, there are 2 young men in prison with him. And each of them have asked Joseph for an interpretation of their dream. Before interpreting, good point to mention, Yusuf invites them to worship Allah alone. We're going to do a little dialogue before we start this, right? We go like, hey, have you heard about Allah? You know, let me tell you about something that can save you, regardless of what you're going through. He interpreted that one would serve wine to the king, the other would be crucified, and birds would eat from his head. He asked the one saved, the one that wouldn't die, to mention him to the king. This is one of the things where you gotta know what it's like to be locked up, get out, and you said y'all been locked up together, and y'all said y'all gonna do all this stuff together, and y'all gonna look out for each other, and y'all gonna call each other when y'all got out to the free world, and then you get out to the free world, and you hard pressed not only to find them, right? All of the promises were just comfort talk, right? That help. That man, I got a whole bunch. I got 5 cards. You can get one of them. Right? It was just comfort talk. And it wasn't, action. And you realize that, at showtime. But the man had forgotten to mention. It wasn't until was it not only did he forget to mention it, he forgot to mention it for years. Like you got somebody in there that's really innocent, they can, he can do something else, or something like that. But he forgot to mention it. Like once you get favor, you're gonna be back out there in favor. I already told you what it's gonna be. This is how clear Joseph is about his visions. Like he's not wondering if his visions are true, are gonna be true. Right? Like he's crystal on. This guy not gonna make it. He gonna make it. Hey, bro, it's gonna make it. Can you mention me to the king? It's that some of us, we get a vision, we doubtful almost to its slap. And we gotta work on it. Because when the law gives us something, I remember Les Brown in his motivational speaking, he would tell people, he said, look, everybody in this room, he said, what's your goal? Get your biggest goal in your head. He said, you got it? He said, you got it? He said, okay, whatever it is, multiply it times 10. He said, I know what you're thinking. How I'm going to do it, where I'm going to start. He said, that's none of your business. That's not your job. Your job is just get in your mind and start. Right? Some of us can't operate like that. I'm not going to say can't. Can't is a strong word. Some of us don't want to operate like that. That is faith. That is Allah has given me something. Who am I? Who am I to say, deny his favor? Who am I to say, but that's too big? Like, is it too big for Allah? Who is it too big for? Is it too big for what he guides you to? That we have such a constancy of charity that we're supposed to give, zakat, sadaqah, that we almost are guaranteed supposed to be rich as far as the law is concerned, just so that we can do with it what he knows we'll do. So it ain't our job to doubt ourselves. It's not our job to, you know what I'm saying? We allowing Shaitan to occupy too much space in our mind, right? And turn down whatever Allah said. We need to just walk it out. So soon Pharaoh gets a dream. All his wise people, nobody can interpret the dream. And you gotta understand, he's ruling a kingdom. He can't get nobody in the kingdom to interpret this dream. And he wants it interpreted like that. Right? He feels like, hey, I've been given this. And I want to say there's a history of kings getting visions, being led. So they know. They're not like a common person that will get a vision and think, oh no, that's nothing. They got a whole history of fathers passing down lineage and stories and time. So they know, man, it's something about that. I gotta figure it out. Like, this is my job. Like, look, besides just being rich, I got nothing else to do. I've been given this, something happened. And if I don't figure it out, it could be detrimental to the entire kingdom. Joseph is the only one that can interpret. And the guy remembers him at that time. You know, he's still in favor, he's still around there. He was like, I know a guy that can. He brought him out. First, that was proving that he was actually innocent. And then the king says, bring him to me. I will appoint him exclusively for myself. Yusuf said, appoint me over the storehouses and land. Indeed, I am a knowing guardian. Imagine, you're in jail and you become the most trusted person. Imagine you being sold into slavery and you become the most trusted person. When we see the parallels, just imagine we get sold. We in our story we get sold into slavery and we go into this foreign land and this land is so against us in so many ways or whatever. But one of us, still ends up on Pharaoh's seat. People probably try to shoot that down. They say, well, he's kind of like, he's all weighing everything out, right? Trying to diminish anything, right? But just imagine you end up getting that much favor. Not only did you get that much favor, you remember the party that at that time they had ran the whole country into a recession. So when we talk about Joseph's story and the years of plenty, and then the 8 years of famine and lack, it just ran into a recession. And one of us takes that high seat over the country that we had been sold into, and for 8 years walks us out of it. But if we don't see that, or if we don't know the story, we don't even sign up for the job. We're like, y'all do it. Y'all ruined it. you ever told somebody that you do it, you messed it up. Right? Right? But a lot of times the Lord is telling us to help. The Lord is telling us this is a moment in which you can show who you are, what I've blessed you with, what the gifts that I give you. Don't shrink away from it. A lot of us shrink away from a lot of the political stuff. If you said Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, was a politician, they go crazy. If you said he was a king or a ruler, by other people's estimations of what that role is, the vicegerent, right? And he came to rule not only this one city and this other city, but these are the only two major cities in that area. So you came to rule the entire continent. But this is one of the parts of the continent, right? And we still shy away from saying what was done to pass laws, provisions, equality. Some of the things that we enjoy now were gleaned off of people studying all of it. They didn't know how to do anything. They say, well, how did they do it? Well, where would equality come from? Maybe 500 AD, 600, 700 AD, right? So a lot of what they were saying.
Assalamu alaikum, brother.
Wa alaikum assalam.
We are pretty much on our time span, but I wanted to see if there may be some questions here, Aki, and we can also come back and revisit this since definitely a wonderful subject. I knew it was
Yeah,
gonna
because
be a
it
lot. There's a
yeah,
lot in it,
Yeah.
but I wanted to see someone.
and we summarizing right now. So yeah, and then I have to run over like when you talk about the code, it's so
Yeah.
There's more
just
that
to think
can
that
be said.
just to think that a small thing like that could read that much info. You have no idea. I remember when I got my first Patrick Ewing. Anyway, so like, y'all have questions or a comment? You could just have a comment.
Patrick Ewing's shoes.
You know, yeah, Patrick Ewing, one old basketball player. I ain't look.
Patrick Ewing.
I ain't grow up rich. My daddy was rich, but he was giving everything to the community. He wasn't playing around with it. He was tight with money, and my mom really didn't have it like that. So my sister brought me my first pair of like name brand, like, you know, high dollar shoes, right? And Patrick Ewing was like a prominent basketball player at the time.
Yeah.
So I had 33s on the side. Yeah, couldn't tell me nothing right then. Look, but and you know, you start off the new school year, so that's one of the reasons why I love what we do, giving the families and supporting families in the community, and we're giving shoes and clothes. Like we're doing that right now today. Where we feed over 100 families at Fifth Ward. I know many of you already know, and giving out clothing. I recently got a donation of a lot of clothing, a lot of new clothing and shoes that kind of loaded me up, you know, and that warmed my heart. I actually got 2 pairs in my car right now that I have to drop off some Air Max, because when you go through it, you know, right? And that's what we're talking about. When you go through it, you know the difference that can make, you know, for that child, for that school year. Maybe they get ranked on a little list. They can focus on their studies, you know, and not worry about having to try to be fresh or what they don't have. But any questions, comments, any other thing? Me, Joseph. But yeah, I suggest everybody read
Yeah, I
it.
got one.
But
So
think
Yusuf's gift was interpreting dreams, right? Was that the only gift you had? Dreams in the dreams.
no.
Good question.
And I think when it started, the quality of his character, and we might not count it, but his beauty was a
Yeah.
issue.
They're not talking about physical beauty, right?
No, it was physical beauty.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so it was inside and out.
Think the women was
For the journey's sake, it wasn't physical
oh, okay.
because the prophet was ascending through the heavens, and he's not there at that moment. But when you're going through Joseph's story, like it's a reason why Aziz's wife is, you know,
Yeah.
like normally she'd be okay, right? But
Right.
Joseph was beautiful inside and out. You know, brother shining. You know, and sometimes even the best of people will be, you know, led into some things, right? But that was one of the things, that beauty, and beauty can be a problem. Like women know this better than men, you know. Beauty can be a problem. And having to guard yourself. But yeah.
One thing, so some of his other skills, in response to Brother Shafiq's question, he was a good administrator. You know, he was an excellent administrator. He was so good that he basically ascended to the seat of power. And history does prove that there was an immigrant from what we call Palestine today that went into Egypt and ascended to power. They have any later, and they proliferated for about 100 years. It was a whole period at this time, and they were eventually became the people of the Exodus.
Like the infiltration of the Levant cultures.
Initially, they were welcome.
Inside some of
Yeah,
the
initially they were welcome. So he ascended to a position of power. He was an administrator. He had a power of vision and insight, interpretation of dreams, and he was, of course, a prophet of Allah.
And that's the thing that comes with vision, like that. Yeah. Just like I was saying, like as soon as he had the vision, he knew it to be true. When he interpreted for somebody else, he knew it
Right.
Just imagine having to grasp the type of wisdom you have to grasp that and know. And I mean, when you know something, you just immediately act on it, you know. And that's the big difference, because you can know a lot of things and just never act on it. Never act on what you know. You know. You know, people say, I know I'm cold, but I ain't never tried it. It's like, what if Jordan knew he was good, but he never played? You know, I got childhood friends that they were water with that ball. Never win. Now they gotta watch their son. Son got that skill, right? But a lot of times we'll have it, or Allah will give us something and we won't act on it. Allah also warns us. He says, if you don't, He'll give it to another. He'll give that assignment to another. Some of these assignments ain't optional; they need to get done. And if you don't do it, they give it to another. And you can see this by the story as well, that the assignment wasn't negotiable because the entire world would come to depend on Egypt at that time to get through that famine for 8 years, right? So it wasn't optional. You know, Africa depended on it, the Levant, that was the entire world at that time. You know,
Civilized.
yeah, civilized world at that time. And that's why I like maps too. I wanted to bring one of them big old maps. The other thing was, like, when we talk about the journey, that was to Masjid Al-Aqsa, like 769 miles. And when we talk about it at that time, no AC, you're talking about a caravan with camels in the hot sun, not no car, not no freeway, the highway, not no plane. And so the other part of when he's telling his story and why some people just couldn't believe it is like, you went to Jerusalem back in one night? Oh,
But he had receipts.
you understand what I'm saying? You understand what I'm saying? Thank you.
They knew that they sent caravans, and he saw them. He told them who was the lead camel. Red camel was leading on one of them, and all kind of stuff. He gave them proof.
But
Plus, they knew that he wasn't alive.
yeah, bingo.
Yeah.
But and that's thing, you can't control somebody who has that disease in their heart.
Right.
We deal with that right now today.
Yeah.
It don't matter how much truth you give some of these people.
You
If
show
they
show
did,
it to them
if
right
they
there,
did
black and white.
sit about what they believe or their bias, they can't be. You must have messed with it.
See, was that a physical sensation?
Hmm?
Was it a physical sensation?
Yeah. That's the reason why Joseph's story is so important.
Yeah.
Is because it's telling you that these things that we see are real, ultimately, especially when you act on what they are. Like he's getting the keys. He's getting. It's kind of like you going before the tribunal and you getting the seeds that you need and the keys. It's on you now, brother. You know,
Brother, I hate
here
to
goes
cut you off,
keys to the mind.
but we're on our time. So, and we have to at least let the online go.
All right, assalamu alaikum. I appreciate all y'all and bearing with me and trying to get through this, because when these things are large like this, it's just it's a lot. Dude, I can go in 100 different directions and trying to get across a certain point. But inshallah, I got something from it. Some clarity on some of it.
Thank you.
Because it's a beautiful story, and I guide you to go back through it. A lot of times we're busy. We have a lot of stuff going on in life. Go back through it and think about right now. Don't divorce right now contemporary history with it, and get the jewels, and may it bless you and warm your heart and your family. Wala إن الإنسان لا يفكر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر
Amen.
Takbir.
Allahu Akbar.
Takbir.
Allahu Akbar.
Takbir.
Allahu Akbar.
I think Sister Latifah.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if she's there, but you can mute us. They can still hear you. You can mute us and leave her.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. We'd like to again thank Imam Yusuf Benson from Fifth Ward Islamic Center for being with us today and continuing the ascension of the Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Again, we'd like to thank our listening audience for joining us today for our Taileen. Please join us, inshallah, every Sunday, God willing, every Sunday for our Taileen and public address beginning at 12:30, live streamed, inshallah, and in person at our masjid, 7610 Highway 6 in Hitchcock, Texas, 77563. Please also join us on Thursday night for our guided study of the Quran. This will be on-site only at the masjid. But if you would like to join Zoom, please contact us via our Facebook page, inshallah. Our Thursday night class begins at 6:30 and lasts until around 8 p.m. We also ask that you subscribe to our YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram pages at Masjid New Africa. And as always, please look for our colorful logo so that you may be able to be notified when we have certain topics, presenters, and just to stay informed on our dawah efforts and our outreach efforts in the community. We'd also like to invite you to attend our community chess class every Monday night from 6 to 7:30 p.m. at Carver Park. This is led by Imam Lee. 281-691-3787 is the number to contact for additional information. As always, we are grateful and thankful for any donations you may make to Masjid New Africa Center for Human Development. As a reminder, we are a 501c3 organization. You may mail in your donations to 7610 Highway 6, again, Hitchcock, Texas, 77563, via PayPal at paypal.me/Masjid New Africa, and at Cash App. And that should be $ Masjid New Africa and the number 1. And I am so sorry I did not update this. I do apologize on this side. Actually, please bear with me just 1 second. Yes, again, it is Cash App, $ Masjid New Africa, and the number 1. And I do believe this completes our announcements. We'd also like to remind you that on behalf of the JJ Shabazz, the Imam JJ Shabazz legacy, we'd like to remind you of the upcoming annual Thanksgiving dinner giveaway. Imam Jama is a beloved individual, or I should say was, well, he still is. He has since transitioned and is the husband of our dear sister Maggie Shabazz. In honor of Imam J.J. Shabazz, he had a passion for ensuring that every family could enjoy a holiday meal, and he was known for giving away turkeys during Thanksgiving. So, with that, the family has continued in honor of his legacy. And that, again, it's a little early. Well, not too early. It's September. November is right around the corner. We ask that you support the JJ Shabazz Foundation. And you can go to www.jjshabazzfoundation.org for further information. And of course, your support helps keep this tradition alive. Donations and volunteers are always accepted. And we'd also like to invite you to our Masjid Worthuddin Muhammad, the annual Bean Pie Festival, I guess, if you will. It will be more than that, but it is the official American Bean Pie Fest 2025. They will have many guest speakers. There will be a singles event. Preacher Moss will be the MC. There will be live entertainment, just a lot. And it will be for family, children, adults. There will be, inshallah, something for everything. The agenda, you can go to the website of Masjid W.D. Muhammad in Houston for further information. So that is next month. It's only a couple of weeks away. So we ask that everyone who's in local and surrounding areas and from afar to please join us in Houston on the weekend of October the 3rd. So it's the 3rd through the 4th. So again, please go to their webpage. You can send a question or ask for information at info@Masjid WD Muhammad with an O and an E. So that's Masjid WD MOHAMMED.com. You may call 713-309-6680. Or again, you can go to the Facebook page at Masjid WDM. Again, we thank our guest Imam Yusuf Benson, today for his presentation on behalf of, and again, on behalf of Masjid New Africa Center for Human Development, we'd like to say, Assalamu alaikum, peace be unto you, and everyone have a great week. Assalamu alaikum.